What does Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, Ultra Kill, and Arcane all have in common? They're all well-made products for one, but for another, they use leitmotif. Oxford Languages defines leitmotif as a recurrent idea throughout a musical or literary composition associated with a particular person, idea, or situation. In November of 2021, Arcane made its debut on Netflix. One of the main locations of the show is the city of Piltover, a massive steampunk metropolis filled with inventions and riches. Whenever the splendor and ingenuity of Piltover is shown on display, a specific melody is associated with it. It shows up at these parts. This moment helps to give the impressions of the beauty and industry of Piltover, and helps to show the city of progress. I think that depending on where the shots are focused during the scene, the soundtrack grows or shrinks. Initially it starts off small, but then grows large with the reveal of the massive, sprawling city before them. As the focus returns back to the character, the motif quiets down as well as the instruments. As an extra point, it shows what Piltover is like prior to the inventions of Hextech. Glamorous, but nothing like it will be in 10 years or so. This moment shows the association between the crystals in Piltover via its motif, but shows it to be small through the more ethereal and lonesome instrument used in the melody. I don't know how to describe it, but it sounds like someone is playing the melody with glass, which seems appropriate when the focus of the scene is on several glassy-looking crystals. The ethereal melody helps to illustrate just how small the crystals are. But when their potential is shown later on, the changes enacted as a result of the crystals are massive.
The next chapter of Hextech. Come to the lab this afternoon, I'll show you.
I'll look forward to it. You certainly have something to live up to, my boy.
As with Piltover's initial reveal, Episode 4 helps to clue us in as to what's happened to Piltover during the time skip. The establishing shots of Piltover after its technological revolution helps to show that the city is still beautiful and has since changed during the intervening years between Acts 1 and 2. A version of the City of Progress, known as a bicentennial, relies on a slower build-up and different chords that still work in the key that the original song was in, but help to show contrast while maintaining the same basic melody. One thing I appreciate is that Arcane doesn't overuse the motif of Piltover, preferring to use it sparingly to punctuate the moments it really does need to punctuate. Alexander Temple was the lead composer for this soundtrack, and I think he did a really good job. Additionally, the Berlin Orchestra played for the big orchestral pieces, and their performance was excellent. Arcane does a really good job of illustrating its narrative through its music, and I found the progression of Piltover's theme was a good way of showing the city's development. While the motif is not used often, I think it's nice that it does just enough to get the message across, and then moves on to another part of its story as opposed to Piltover, which is why the narrative and the pacing feels so skillfully put together. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse does something excellent with its motifs. It shows contrasts between characters using melody. Early on into the film, we're introduced to Miles Morales, a schoolboy who's recently begun to study at the Brooklyn Visions Academy. Miles has a hard time fitting in, but his parents want him to continue at Visions even though he doesn't really want to. One person he can find comfort in is his Uncle Aaron, a trusted confidant of his. Miles trusts Aaron very deeply. But when he goes out with Aaron to a hidden location to do graffiti, he gets bitten by a radioactive spider and begins the journey to become Spider-Man. Later on in the movie, it's revealed that Aaron is working for the villains. Aaron goes by the alias of the Prowler. But the thing is, Miles' theme is a version of the Prowler's theme. It's in reverse. Reason this is so cool is that if Miles hadn't become Spider-Man, he would have gone on to follow in his uncle's footsteps and become the Prowler, as shown in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. To show how they contrast, I'll show the Prowler's theme, and then reverse it and compare it to Miles' theme. The Prowler's theme uses a siren as a constant motif and a way of signaling his approach. It starts on high notes and decrescendos as he gets closer to Miles. It's also used at the end of Across the Spider-Verse as a way of introducing Prowler Miles. Given this is the Prowler's theme in reverse, it goes up instead of down, and as such creates a more interesting feel that contrasts the original melody. In comparison to the Prowler's more synthesized version of a song, Miles' theme is more orchestral, building an intensity throughout the piece. It's a little slower paced than the alacritousness of the Prowler's theme, and the siren builds up instead of down in the same way that Miles is the opposite of Aaron. So, his theme not only shows how he's different from his uncle, but how his uncle has left an impact on him. Daniel Pemberton composed the soundtracks to the Spider-Verse movies, and he did an excellent job at it. I especially like the way he characterized the various villains of the show. Additionally, I'm going to link some videos that help me see the contrast between Uncle Aaron and Miles, both in music and characters, namely those of the Socratic Cinema and the YouTuber Pringle. I doubt this section would have gotten made if I didn't see those videos, and I would thoroughly recommend that you check both of these channels out. The final piece of media that uses leitmotif that I'm going to talk about today is Ultrakill. Mankind is dead, blood is fuel, and hell is full. While not as narratively inclined as the first two pieces of media that I've brought up, Ultrakill does use leitmotif to inform us of one of its main rivals, that of the Archangel Gabriel. Gabriel serves as a sort of rival to the player. Playthrough enacts 3 layers, and when you get to the final level, on the 3rd layer, there is Gabriel. Organs, weapons, and insults leveled against you. Eventually you find your way to him and fight him. Cue the boss music, loud guitar, and all the other staples of a rival boss fight worthy of Virgil. After you defeat him, he screams about how this is not over! You jump down the hole to the next level and act, and then a text section talks to you about what Gabriel does after the fight, Fall Further from Grace. This is accompanied by a music box tune. While they don't always share the same melody, the instruments and when they're played are generally the same. The game still is in early access, but the first 2 acts and 2 fights with Gabriel subsequently have kept to the same formula. I'm not sure if the 3rd act will subvert the pattern or keep it going, but when the organ music starts playing, you know it's Gabriel's time to shine. Normally, most characters have 1 theme or motif, but the fights with Gabriel condition you to know 3 melodies: the build-up, the fight, and the aftermath. The organs build up to the fight, the crazy guitar serves as the war song as you fight Gabriel, and the music box afterwards shows you the consequences of your actions, the before, during, and after. Hakita, the developer of Ultrakill, did the soundtrack to all of these songs under the project name Heaven Piercer. Ultrakill's soundtrack was from the breakcore genre and has since popularized the genre and made it a little more mainstream. It's hard to notice the difference, but even minor musical details like this can fully help to tell a story or remind you of characters. Leitmotif is fairly commonly used, but often, from what I've seen, the concept just isn't given nearly as much reverence as I think it should be. These are ways to tell people about characters without a word of dialogue, ways to foreshadow things and ways to tell stories. We should recognize this sort of thing more often. The next time you consume or make a piece of media, think about how your music will help to tell your story, not only tonally, but as a different way of identifying your characters, ideas, and world.